The elegant hand-carved welcome sign for the Willow Creek Preserve, a sign that proclaimed it a community of distinction, usually filled Elias Vance with a mild professional cynicism. As Governor Eva Rostova's chief community liaison, Elias had seen his share of such self-congratulatory banners, often masking deep-seated social fissures. Today, however, as he drove through the imposing brick and wrought iron gates for a scheduled and already contentious meeting with the HOA board, the sign had been replaced. In its place, stark against the pristine, manicured landscape, hung a massive, crudely painted white banner. The black block letters were ugly, brutal, and unambiguous. Willow Creek Preserve, preserving our character. No blacks, no noise, no exceptions. Elias hit the brakes so hard, his state-issued sedan skidded slightly on the immaculate cobblestone pavers. He stared, his mind struggling to process the raw, naked hatred of the words. This wasn't a dog whistle. This wasn't coded language. This was a Klan rally sign, a relic of a savage past, resurrected and displayed proudly at the entrance to one of the state's wealthiest and most powerful suburban enclaves in the year 2025. No blacks. The words were a direct, violent assault on his new neighbors and friends. The Bell family, one of the first black families to move into Willow Creek Preserve. No noise. A chilling ableist addendum clearly targeting their youngest son David, who had autism, and sometimes expressed his joy and anxiety with loud, unfiltered vocalizations. This wasn't just an HOA dispute anymore. This wasn't just NIMBYism. This was a domestic terror threat, a blatant act of racial intimidation and hate speech designed to terrorize, to exclude, to wound. Elias felt a cold, familiar rage settle in his gut, the same rage that had fueled his entire career as a civil rights attorney before he had accepted the governor's appointment. He reached for his secure state police radio, his voice calm and steady, despite the storm raging inside him. This is Vance to State Police Command. I need a rapid response unit at my location, the main entrance to the Willow Creek Preserve gated community in Haven County. We have a public display of a hate-motivated threat, a potential federal hate crime in progress. I also need to speak with the lead agent at the Regional FBI Civil Rights Division immediately. And get me the State Attorney General on her secure line. He then made another call, this one to the governor's chief of staff. Jessica. He said, his voice tight. Cancel my 10 o'clock. We have a situation in Havenwood, a serious one. The culture war just went nuclear. He looked again at the hideous banner, then at the sprawling, silent mansions beyond. Somewhere in this community of distinction, the perpetrator was watching, pleased with their handiwork. He thought of the Bell family, of their bright, beautiful children. And he knew with an absolute certainty that resonated in his very bones that he was about to bring the full, unyielding force of the governor's office and the entire state and federal justice system down on the head of whoever was responsible. And he had a very, very good idea who that was. Ms. Karen Sterling, HOA president, and the architect of Willow Creek Preserve's campaign of racist, exclusionary hate. Elias Vance was a man who believed in the power of government to be a force for good, a shield for the vulnerable, a builder of bridges between divided communities. As Governor Eva Rostova's chief community liaison and senior advisor on inclusion and equity, his job was to be the governor's eyes, ears, and when necessary, her voice in cities and towns across the state. He was a diplomat, a negotiator, a problem solver, a man who moved with quiet confidence in the complex, often treacherous corridors of power. But before his appointment, he had been one of the state's most respected civil rights attorneys, a man who had successfully litigated landmark cases against housing discrimination, police misconduct, and voting rights suppression. He understood the legal architecture of hate, and he knew how to dismantle it. The Bell family, Marcus, a successful architect, his wife, Dr. Althea Bell, a renowned pediatrician, and their 3 children, including 10-year-old David, who was autistic. were the embodiment of the diverse, vibrant future Elias was working to build. They had moved to Willow Creek Preserve 6 months prior, drawn by its reputation for excellent schools and its beautiful, expansive homes, hoping to find a safe, welcoming community for their family. They had instead found Karen Sterling. Karen Sterling, president of the Willow Creek Preserve Homeowners Association, was a woman whose immense inherited wealth had insulated her from consequence and nurtured a profound, unshakable belief in her own racial and social superiority. She ruled the HOA with an iron fist, her leadership a masterclass in manipulating bylaws, stoking fears, and enforcing a rigid, exclusionary vision of what her community should be. To Sterling, the arrival of the Bell family was not a welcome addition of diversity. It was an invasion, a contamination of her pristine white and, above all, quiet domain. Her prejudice was as deeply ingrained as it was vicious, though often cloaked in the more socially acceptable language of preserving standards, protecting property values, and ensuring community safety. The inciting incident that had first brought the escalating racial tensions in Willow Creek Preserve to Elias Vance's official attention had been a formal complaint filed with his office by a coalition of civil rights organizations on behalf of the Bell family and several other minority families who had recently moved into the area. The complaint detailed a pattern of targeted harassment and discriminatory enforcement of HOA rules, all seemingly orchestrated by Karen Sterling. The most egregious incident had been Sterling's attempt to get the HOA to ban the construction of a backyard swimming pool by the Bell family, citing a convoluted, newly invented bylaw about unacceptable noise levels from recreational water features. When the Bells had pointed out that several of their white neighbors had much larger, noisier pools, Sterling had reportedly told Althea Bell with a chilling smile that some families have a natural disposition towards more boisterous and disruptive behavior, and we must take proactive measures to protect the tranquility of the community. The racial dog whistle had been deafening. Elias's office had intervened, issuing a stern warning to the HOA about potential violations of the Fair Housing Act, and the pool had been approved. But Sterling's campaign of harassment had only intensified. The rising action had been a steady, insidious drumbeat of racism and intimidation. First, Sterling had spearheaded a new Community Conduct Code, a document filled with vague subjective rules that were clearly designed to target Black families. The code included restrictions on loud music, by which she meant hip-hop or R&B audible from a car, large unsanctioned group gatherings, targeting Black family barbecues and celebrations, and even a bizarre rule about appropriate front porch decorum, used to harass the Bells for having what Sterling deemed too many children's toys visible. Sterling had hired the notoriously aggressive Patriot Protection Services security firm, whose guards, particularly a thuggish officer named Bishop, began to systematically harass Black residents and their guests, demanding identification, trailing their cars, and issuing bogus citations for these fabricated infractions. The second, more shocking series of incidents involved the direct targeting of the children. Karen Sterling had organized a concerned parents group within Willow Creek to lobby the local school board to redraw school district lines, a clear attempt to gerrymander the Bell children and other minority students out of the high-performing Willow Creek School and into a less resourced school in a neighboring district. She had also, according to several credible witnesses, been seen taking photographs of the Bell children and other Black children as they played in the community park, muttering about gathering evidence of their disruptive behavior. One parent reported that Sterling had approached her and warned her not to let her children play with the Bell children, as they were not the right sort and a bad influence. This was not just about rules anymore. This was a systematic campaign to isolate and drive Black families out of her community. The midpoint twist, the discovery that propelled Karen Sterling from a virulent racist and HOA tyrant into the category of a potential domestic extremist, came when Elias Vance's team, now conducting a full-scale civil rights investigation, uncovered her hidden online life and her connections to a national network of white supremacist and anti-immigrant hate groups. Under a pseudonym, Preserve Patriot 76, Sterling was an active and influential participant in several far-right online forums, her posts filled with vile racist conspiracy theories, praise for segregationist policies, and calls for patriots to take back their communities from the forces of cultural degradation. Her Coalition for Safer Community Parks was not just a local NIMBY group. It was a front, a local chapter of a much larger, more dangerous movement designed to test strategies for racial exclusion that could then be replicated in other affluent communities across the country. Her petition was a template for hate. A red herring had briefly surfaced when a legitimate dispute had arisen between the Willow Creek HOA and a neighboring commercial developer over a proposed new shopping center. For a time, it seemed that some of Sterling's more aggressive community protection rhetoric might be related to this commercial dispute, a fight over traffic and property values that was common in suburban politics. But Elias's investigation quickly revealed that this was a smokescreen. Sterling was using the commercial dispute to rally her base to stoke fears of outsiders and uncontrolled development. But her true primary focus, as her private emails and online posts made chillingly clear, was the demographic invasion of black families into her pristine white enclave. Now standing before the hideous banner that so crudely, so violently articulated Karen Sterling's hateful ideology, Elias Vance knew that all the pieces had come together. This wasn't just a violation of HOA bylaws or even a simple civil rights complaint. This was the public declaration of a hate-fueled campaign, an act of domestic terrorism designed to intimidate, to terrorize, to drive families from their homes because of the color of their skin. And Elias Vance, as the governor's chief community liaison, as a black man, as a father, as an American, was about to bring the full weight of the state's moral and legal authority crashing down upon it. The time for quiet warnings was over. The time for decisive public and unyielding action had arrived. The scene at the entrance to Willow Creek Preserve was surreal, a tableau of obscene hatred juxtaposed against a backdrop of manicured perfection. The No Blacks, No Noise banner fluttered in the gentle morning breeze, an ugly flapping wound on the pristine face of the community. Several cars had stopped their drivers staring in stunned disbelief. A local news van alerted by an early morning commuter was already pulling up its camera operator, scrambling to get a shot. Elias Vance, his face a mask of cold-controlled fury, immediately took charge. "Captain Miller," he said into his state police radio, addressing the commander of the regional barracks, "I am at the main entrance to Willow Creek Preserve in Havenwood. I am officially requesting an immediate priority response from state police and the state attorney general's hate crimes unit. We have a public display of what appears to be a direct racially motivated threat, a potential felony under state hate crime statutes. I want this entire entrance area secured as a crime scene. I want that banner preserved as evidence. And I want a full investigative team here now." "Understood, Mr. Vance." The captain's voice crackled back sharp with alarm. "Units are en route." Elias then called Marcus Bell. His voice was gentle but firm. "Marcus, it's Elias. I need you and Althea to stay inside your home for now. And keep the children away from the front of the house. There's an incident at the main gate. It's ugly. I'm handling it. But I don't want your kids to see this. Just stay put. You are safe. I promise you that." "Elias, what is it?" Marcus's voice was tight with anxiety. "It's a banner, Marcus. A racist banner. Clearly targeted. It's coming down now, and the people responsible are going to be held accountable. Just trust me. Stay inside for a little while." As state troopers began to arrive, securing the scene with a grim efficiency, Elias saw a silver Mercedes pull up to the inner side of the gate. Karen Sterling emerged, dressed in expensive tennis whites, her expression one of annoyed impatience at the sudden police presence disrupting her morning routine. She spotted Elias, talking to the state police captain, and strode towards them, her face a mask of imperious inquiry. "What in heaven's name is all this commotion?" Sterling demanded, her voice sharp. "Captain, why are you blocking the entrance to our community? We have residents trying to get to their tennis lessons." The captain looked towards Elias, who gave a slight nod. "Ms. Karen Sterling." Elias said, his voice quiet, devoid of all emotion, save for a profound, chilling authority. "Yes," she snapped, turning to face him, her eyes filled with undisguised contempt for this man who had so often thwarted her community standards initiatives. "And what do you want, Mr. Vance? Have you come to apologize for the state's continued interference in our private community's affairs?" "No, Ms. Sterling." Elias replied, his gaze unwavering. "I've come because we have reason to believe that you are responsible for hanging this." He gestured towards the hateful banner, now being carefully documented and taken down by a forensic team. An act which constitutes, among other things, a felony charge of inciting racial hatred, conspiracy to violate civil rights, and multiple other state and federal offenses. Sterling's face, for the first time, registered a flicker of genuine shock, quickly replaced by a sneering disbelief. "Are you insane, me that vulgar piece of trash? That's preposterous. I am a pillar of this community. I would never—" "This is clearly the work of outside agitators. Probably the very same disruptive elements I've been warning the town about for months. The ones you and your radical governor seem so intent on protecting." "Is that so, Ms. Sterling?" Elias's voice was like ice. "Because we have a witness, a sales clerk at a local sign-making shop, who will testify that you personally purchased a large custom-printed vinyl banner yesterday afternoon, paying in cash and providing the exact hateful text that appeared on this banner. We also have security footage from a gas station across the street, time-stamped at 3:17 a.m. this morning, showing your distinctive silver Mercedes parked near this entrance, and a figure matching your description wearing your trademark cashmere jogging suit, getting out of the car and approaching the main sign with a ladder and a large rolled-up object." He paused, letting the weight of the evidence settle. "And then, of course, we have your extensive history of racially motivated harassment, your documented attempts to exclude Black families from this community, your leadership of a coalition that my office has now definitively linked to several national white supremacist organizations, and your own words in your own emails, calling Black children urban vermin in need of fumigation." The color drained from Karen Sterling's face. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The intricate web of lies-coded language and plausible deniability she had so carefully constructed had just been ripped to shreds. She was exposed, her raw, ugly bigotry laid bare for the entire state, and soon the nation to see. "Karen Sterling." Elias said, his voice now resonating with the full weight of the state's moral and legal authority, as two state troopers stepped forward, handcuffs at the ready. "You are under arrest for inciting racial hatred, conspiracy to violate civil rights, and multiple other felonies. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you exercise it for once in your life." Her arrest, broadcast live by the now swarming local news crews, was a stunning public downfall. The image of the wealthy, powerful HOA president, the self-appointed guardian of community standards, being led away in handcuffs in front of the hateful banner she herself had created, became an instant iconic symbol of the fight against suburban racism. The investigation and prosecution that followed were a landmark event. Elias Vance, working with the State Attorney General and the U.S. Department of Justice, built an ironclad case against Sterling and her key co-conspirators on the Willow Creek Preserve HOA board, and within her Coalition for Safer Community Parks. The evidence of a coordinated hate-fueled conspiracy to intimidate and drive Black families from the community was overwhelming. The trial was a searing indictment of the insidious nature of modern racism. Sterling's defense, a pathetic attempt to portray herself as a misunderstood community activist and a victim of a political witch hunt, crumbled under the weight of her own hateful words and actions. She was found guilty on all charges, including state and federal hate crimes, and sentenced to a lengthy prison term, the judge condemning her actions as an act of moral and social terrorism that sought to poison the well of community life with the age-old venom of racial hatred. Her vast assets were seized with a significant portion directed to a new state-level equity and inclusion fund, administered by Elias Vance's office, to support families targeted by housing discrimination and to fund multicultural community building initiatives across the state. The Willow Creek Preserve HOA was dismantled under a state-brokered consent decree, its discriminatory bylaws rescinded, its leadership replaced by a new, diverse, and inclusive board committed to genuine community harmony. The security contract with Patriot Protection Services was terminated, and the firm itself faced its own federal investigation for its role in the harassment campaign. In the aftermath, Governor Eva Rostova, with Elias Vance at her side, signed the Inclusive Communities Act into law. This sweeping package of reforms born from the ugly incident at Willow Creek became a national model. It included significantly strengthened state hate crime laws, with specific provisions addressing acts of intimidation and harassment in residential communities. Mandatory anti-bias and civil rights training for all HOA board members and private security personnel statewide. The creation of a new state Office of Fair Housing and Community Relations with robust investigative and enforcement powers to address discriminatory practices by HOAs and developers. New state funding for programs designed to promote residential integration and to support families moving into communities where they have been historically underrepresented. The hateful banner that had once hung at the entrance to Willow Creek Preserve was replaced by a new sign, one designed by a committee of residents that included Marcus and Althea Bell. It read simply, "Willow Creek Preserve, a community that welcomes all." Elias Vance often visited the Bells in the months and years that followed. He would watch their children play in Willow Creek Park, a space now truly, genuinely public and welcoming. The fight against hate, he knew, was a perpetual one. But on that beautiful, sun-drenched afternoon, watching a diverse group of children laugh and play together, their parents chatting easily on nearby benches, Elias allowed himself a moment of profound, hard-won peace. Karen Sterling had tried to build a wall of hate around her community. Instead, she had unwittingly opened a gateway to a more just, more inclusive, and more hopeful future for the entire state. The work was far from over, but a significant battle had been won, and a powerful message had been sent in this state. Under this governor, there would be no haven for hate.